Hello, welcome to the shed. Today's video I'm going to be talking about gifts that you could give for the festive season. Hope you enjoy. It's all going to be in Australian dollars, so those of you say in the US, your prices are probably going to be cheaper than a lot of what I'm listing here, so that's good for you guys. As for everyone else, I'll try and leave links down below. Some of them might be affiliate links to some of this stuff, just so you can not necessarily buy it as such, but check it out and see what the item actually is if you're interested in buying something. So starting here in the lowest area, the cheapest bracket, I've got stuff like steel rules, various sizes. Obviously I've got a few metric ones here. This one's metric and imperial. If you're looking for a steel rule such as one like this, try and get one that's got the little etched numbers on here instead of the ones that are painted on, because the painted on ones don't last. The etched ones got little ridges, so you can feel it with your nail that it's actually ridged, and they're the ones you should go for. I use Spear & Jackson here. They're a fairly inexpensive one that I can get at the local woodworking shop, but any steel rule will do, but try and get the etched ones if you can. And I've got these around in the $5-6 range, because that tends to be what I find them at, but it does depend on the length of your ruler. Then we've got pen tools. These are just HB pen tools. A box of these would be a great gift. I prefer these over mechanical pen tools, but mechanical pen tools are another great idea. I know there are some specialist woodworking mechanical pencils out there, like I believe it's the Pica one, which has a nice thick lead in it, and I don't have one of them, so I'm not really covering it here, but that would be another great gift. But a box of pencils like this, I have found about $5, so that's another great gift. Along with that is the pointy, so it's a pointy pencil sharpener here. This is a desk one. I prefer these because they work a little bit better. Now, why the pointy pencil sharpener? Let me do you a little sample here. So, give this a quick sharpen. If you look at this pencil here, it's got an extremely sharp point on it, and that allows you to get way more accurate marking with it, and that's why I like the pointy pencil sharpener along with the cheap set of pencils. This is the Swordfish pointy. Can't actually find them anymore. That was the very first pointy one that I could find. Booksellers recommended it, and I went ahead and found one and got it. It was about $30 this one, but I have seen some in the $15 range on eBay. So check it out. Just looking for a pointy pencil sharpener or long point pencil sharpener. That's what you'll be looking for. And now we move into marking knives. I've got some more marking knives in the next range as well. But these particular ones, this is an eye gauging brand. This is just a Swiss-made carving knife, which is a double bevel. This is obviously the pointy style like this. And both of these fall in that $10 to $20 range. If you look around, you can find some fairly cheap ones, but they still do a pretty good job. I prefer a different style, which I'll show you up in the next price range, because they're a little bit more expensive. But these would make some great gifts. It's a vernier caliper. They're just little cheap digital ones. These ones I got from Bunnings, but these can be picked up for about $15-20, and you can find them in a lot of different places, and they make a great gift for measuring depths and the odd shapes that you need to measure with the back, maybe inside a circle or for a dowel or something like that, or for measuring screws or shafts of drill bits and things to match screw sizes and things. They're invaluable for that. Finally, squares. Now, a little tiny square like this can be very invaluable. This one happens to be a Marples & Sons one. This is a little bit of a fancy woodworking one, but this was still only about $15. So this makes a great gift, and it looks amazing as well. You can also get the little machinist squares that are in this similar price range, about this size. They're great for measuring the squareness of your blades, when you're sharpening blades and things like that. Squareness of your chisels, and just any little square markings. You can even use them for the square part of doing dovetails across the top and up and down on your boards. They work well for that if you don't have a jig. So on this range, as I said, I had another marking knife. This particular one is a Swan Morton knife, and these ones are quite expensive now. But what I've got on the list here is actually a Stanley version of this that is a folding knife. It's about $30 on eBay, and it is the Stanley 010598. It's a hobby knife, but the blade folds in, which I think is quite a bit safer than this one, which is a fixed blade. And it comes with, that particular one comes with a few extra spare blades as well, which is great. But I've got a video down below showing you how to sharpen them, so you can get away with one blade on a knife like this for a long time. Then we move into something that I really like and I've only been using for a small time, and that is this fast cap flat-backed tape measure. Now, these fast cap tape measures are great. This one is very good because it's got a flat back to it, and if I grab a demo piece here, it allows you to come in. You don't have to deal with the curve of a tape measure. You can get a marking knife over the top of it and mark, or you can bring your pencil in and mark like this, and it's actually dead accurate and flat. It's just as accurate as a square, so this is another great gift. So these fall in here. The cheapest I found them on Amazon was about $23, so that's another great cheap gift. They don't just have the flat back ones, they've got ones that allow you, for carpentry and stuff, that allow you to extend the tape measure almost out its full length without it bending and things like that, so check out fast caps. And then we move into marking gauges. Now, whether it's a wheel marking gauge like these ones here, or even just a footprint style like this, these are not the best. They are quite cheap at, I believe this one was about $20, but I do believe these are actually better value than this old pin style, as they're a little more accurate. Now, these ones here fall into about $36. These ones are the KM Tool ones, and you can also find them very similar to the T-Tool ones. For those of you here in Australia, I haven't found any decent double screwed ones because they hold the best here in Australia. So if any of you have, let me know down below if you've come across any. But yes, these ones have to come from the US. So if you're in the US, check out KM Tools. They're probably going to be your best bet. They've got some good deals there. I believe they've got a Black Friday deal on at the moment, so check it out. I reckon these are really invaluable and a great price. Fall back into the square category. This is a Marples & Sons one, just a standard sort of tri-square. They work pretty well. It's mainly just for running lines around boards and things like that, checking the square on the end of your boards, and I think they work well. Obviously, any vintage versions of these are going to work just as well once you've squared them up, and I'll leave that link down below where I tell you how to check your squares square and square it up if you do end up with a vintage one, or even a brand new one. You still got to check them. And then something that doesn't quite fit in here is I've got these drill driver set. Now, I picked this drill driver set up for $30. It's got the 3 different sizes of Phillips head. It's got one flathead size here, some square drive, some hex drive, some star drive, and so it's a pretty good little kit that can work, you know, with your hand drills or even with the power drills. Now I come into the last range, which is under $100, and once again I go to a square again. Now this is a combination square. This one is the eye gauging square. The cast aluminium, very accurate. Although there are more expensive ones out there, this one I've had for about 5 years. It stays true and square when I check it, and they actually do a really good quality with what they make, and the finish is pretty decent. This one falls in at about $70 if you get just the 300mm combination like this. You can get it in a combination set with the compass head and center finding jig and stuff, but I don't think they're particularly necessary. A combination square like this is very versatile, allows you to change the size of it. You can use it as a depth stop, you can find your 45 degrees, and obviously do everything a tri-square does as well, so there's another good option. I've only got 2 categories here. I've got under $50 and over $100, and that kind of covers most of the sharpening stones that you're going to look at. So first up, I've got a combination India oil stone here. These can be picked up for about $50 or just under. I've got one marked here that I found that was $40 on eBay. So they can be found. You might be able to find them cheaper depending on where you live. But a stone like this works well for sharpening knives. You can obviously sharpen your chisels and your plane blades and everything on this. They're going to be a little bit slower than the next sharpening stone I'm going to show you. And that is these water stones here. Now, these are the King water stones. If you look right here, it says King. These are about $40 each. I have 3 of them. I have I think it was a 300, 800 and 1200 grit, and these particular water stones, they're the grits that I prefer, 300, 400, 800 and 1200, or 600, 800 and 1200. And these are fairly inexpensive. You do have to keep them soaked in water, as you can see down here. So they are a lot more dirty than, say, the India oil stone, which you just put a little bit of oil on. That's easier to keep clean. But I do find that they work much faster, they cut much faster, and at their cheap price for water stones, and believe me, some water stones are up over $100 each. They can be just as expensive as diamond stones. These do work quite well. And I've been using them for a long time. You've probably seen in my early videos, that was all I was using before I ended up with some diamond stones. And now I interchange, but I still like to use the water stones because I find they get a better finish than diamond stones. And now I'm in the over $100 category here. We're looking at diamond stones here. Now these are the Atoma ones. I've only just recently been using them, and by recent I mean probably about the last 12 months. And I really do like the Atoma ones. There's also other brands, DMT and Easy Lap, and they all have various stones in about the same price groupings of what I got here. A medium, which is around a 400 grit, that comes in about 99 to 140 depending on where you look. There's quite a variance here in Australia on them. The 600 grit, about $125 to $140 range, and then once again the 1200 grit is about that $140 range. Now they do vary based on the makers, but they're all around those same prices. If you go for the larger style, if you go for smaller ones, you can obviously get them cheaper, but I prefer this larger style because it's a little bit easier when you're working a plain blade. The reason I like the Atoma one so much is these are on actually aluminium plates, so they're much lighter than some of the others that are on steel plates, and they don't rust as much, although the diamonds can get a little bit stuck and rust a little bit, as you see here. And the other thing that you can get with the Atoma ones is you can buy just the top part of these stones. They're actually stuck on, so you can actually replace the abrasive top, so that's something to look into. However, they're not really any cheaper than buying the entire stone, so that's up to you, but it's another option if you wanted to build a sharpening station on something that is already guaranteed flat. It's down the $20 range. We do have gent saws. Not this particular maker, which I really like, but there are versions of this particular gent saw, or a gent saw like this. There's the Two Cherries one, which I found at about $20 on eBay. So then, in this next range, on the under $50, I've got Chisels, and once again a gent saw. Now this is a William Greaves gent saw. It's the one that you've seen me use. It's the cheapest one that I could get locally when I got it, and it works very well, so that's another option. There's various makers, and I will mention another maker when we get up at the high end, because there are a few more types of these that are more premium. Chisels. This was an inexpensive $70 set of chisels when I got the full set. Now I've got it in this range because you can pick each one of these chisels up individually for about $10. They're more premium chisels, about $25. The Luben ones, while they might not be the best quality out there, they certainly do a decent enough job, especially once you give them a sharpen. In this range of chisels, there's also Narix, and they're another quite common chisel maker out there, and they have chisels ranging from $20 a chisel all the way up to $80 a chisel. So it kind of fits in this category, and then the ones past. But if you go for the cheaper end, like these Lubin ones, they're going to fit within this category pretty well. Now, most of these chisels can be got in a set cheaper, so that's something to watch out for. If you're looking to buy them, maybe wait for a sale or buy the complete kit, and you'll save per chisel that way. Now we're going to jump up into my next category, and that's under the $100, but this kind of overlaps into that $50 range, because I have seen some of them in that under $50 range, and that is Japanese style saws. The Ryoba style and the Dazuki style. There are a few other styles out there. These ones are the razor saw brand. The Dazuki was about $50. This Ryoba was about $60. So that's something to look out for. And there are obviously different makers out there, so it might pay to shop around. And as always, I will leave some links below. And then we come up into the most expensive range here, and it's over the $100 range, which once again has another gent saw. The maker Veritas. They make very good quality back saws, which actually has a plastic polymer for the back on that one, and a lot of people regard them quite highly. Now, they're in this $100 range here in Australia, but I'm pretty sure for you guys over in Canada, where they're made, and in the US, you can get them a lot cheaper than that, and I've seen something to the effect of that. So that's something to look out for. And then obviously this is not a brand new panel saw, but if you're looking at a brand new panel saw or a brand new back saw like this, they're up in around, most of them $230 to maybe $300 in that range, and those prices are based on sort of the Pax brand, which is a pretty common brand that can be found around the world. So lucky for you if you can find them cheaper than that. That's great. So I went ahead and put hand planes and blades, or plain blades, in the category by themselves because they're their own little beast. Now, the cheapest thing that I found here is a replacement Stanley blade. These are the thin blades, and I found one of them on eBay for $30 for a replacement, which is a really good price. As you can see, they are the standard blade that you see in a lot of the old vintage planes, not the new ones. If you're looking for something in a newer one, this is an entire blade assembly from Lubin. The chip breaker on this particular one's $30, and then the blade falls in at about $50 Australian. So that's something that you might want to be looking for in this category. I don't have any of the mid-range premium planes to show you here. What I do have is a brand new Stanley Bailey, and I know this thing causes some controversy for a lot of people out there, but this falls in at I found one of these at $160. These little planes work well. They might not be of the best quality, but I'll leave some videos down below as to where I prepare them. You can check them out if you go ahead and get one of these planes for yourself or for someone else. We go into the more expensive range, and I'm not going to talk about premium hand planes here because they're ridiculously priced here in Australia, so we're not going to talk about Veritas or Lee-Nielsen here. So I'm going to stick to more of the mid-range planes. Now, what I'm talking about here is a Lubin hand plane in the number 4. Now, the Lubin here in Australia can be got for about $270, depending on where you look. They're very similar to the Wood River ones that you can get in the US and Canada quite cheaply. They're about $500–600 here in Australia, so I'm not even really considering them. For those of you outside Australia, they might be a good option, the Wood River ones, that apparently have had a few adjustments over what the base Lubin one plane has had. I think they're only small changes, but you want something that's a little bit better than one of the brand new Stanley Baileys. Not that I think they're a bad plane, but you know, that's up to you. If you want something like that, for those of you not here in Australia, if you can't get the Lubins, the Wood River is definitely very closely related to the Lubin. May even come out of the same factory from what I've seen. Now, in this category, like the rest of it, I've tried to target the cheaper options, although there are some more expensive options there, but I'm not going up into the very premium clamps here, just so you're aware. The ones well over $100, I'm not touching them because I've not used them. So here in the cheap option, we have a glue device. This is the silicone brush from Titebond. It's called the Tide brush. This one was about $5 or $7. The beauty of this is it's a silicone brush, so you brush your glue on, let it dry on here, and then you can actually pull it off. You can also take the entire thing off to clean it and put it back onto the main stick. It also has a little spatula on the end, but the best thing is that you can spread your glue, let the glue dry, clean it off, and you don't have to worry about washing your brush out like you would with a conventional brush. Along with one of these, and I believe Rockler has a set that I've seen, and you can buy their silicone brush with their little silicone glue thing, and I think it's a little glue scraper or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Now, the beauty of the little silicone trays is you can put the glue in there, use up what you need to do, especially when you're doing very delicate work, and then you can let it dry once again, turn it inside out and pull all the glue out, and you can reuse it. Now we move on to the clamps. So on the clamps we have F clamps, probably in the cheapest range here. Now F clamps are useful for a lot of small items, clamping things down to your workbench, clamping some things together. I don't think they're best for panel glue ups, and that's why I've got a few other clamps that are Sash clamps for that. But in this range we have brands like Torquata, like the one I've got here, Pony Jorgensen, and Bessey. Now Bessey is a premium brand. They're going to be the most expensive, but from what I've found in about these 200mm 80 deep F clamps, they range somewhere from $20 to $30 just for one clamp. Now obviously some places you can buy kits of them, and that does make them cheaper, but you don't want to be going and buying the very, very cheap kits. They're best to avoid because they're not very good quality, and they will fail, and they'll just end up being a waste of money in the long run. But they will get you started if you're looking for something a little cheaper. But standard F clamps with the mentioned brands, you can't go wrong. Then we move into wooden screw clamps. Now the wooden screw clamp, for one word for these, is versatile. They are so great for so many different things. You can use them for holding your wood on end and clamp it to the bench when you're edge planing. You can use them to hold small bits together. You can use them to hold small bits up in the air to work on them. Handles and the like, hand plane handles. Anything small, you can clamp them up in one of these. And they're also good for glue ups where you want to keep the panels together. Instead of using an F clamp, you can clamp it. The longer jaws here actually work to keep the boards aligned a little better. Now, really any wooden screw clamp brand will do. This happens to be Torquata, but from what I've seen, they're all the same. They have two threaded bits with some wooden handles, two wooden clamps here which you can control parallel or non-parallel depending on how you adjust them, and they just have a little swivel piece situated in here that, as you can see, you can get all sorts of different angles and movement with them. Now, what I found was the main brands that I could find on eBay or just here locally was obviously Torquata. Pony Jorgensen have really good priced ones, and Bessey once again. And in this case, they range somewhere from $20 to $30, depending on where you look and what you go for. But really, it doesn't really matter with these. All of them are pretty much made the same, and I've not seen a problem with any of them. Now we move into Sash clamps. This category kind of also covers parallel clamps. What I have here is a cheap, inexpensive, hollow tubed aluminium clamp that I've actually put a piece of pine inside, which was an upgrade Paul Sellers suggested, and it does make them work a lot better. This particular one is iron grip, and this one came in at this 600 length at about, what did I have it? About $29. Faithfull is available in the US and probably even in the UK, I'm not sure. But this style, although it's not the best, it is cheap and it does get the job done and gives you more clamping strength than you could ever really need. And if you want to step it up, you can go to something like the Torquata or Bessey, and they're much better quality, just better manufactured, and a stronger sort of, this shaft here is much stronger on those, and you probably don't need to go ahead and put the pine in it like I have with this one, because they should work pretty good by themselves. And I decided to add a little bonus category here. since we're hand tool woodworkers and most of us like our vintage tools, I thought I'd just cover a little section here. Now you can pick up vintage hand planes. This is a 4.5, or you can pick up number 4s and number 3s. And in a dirty condition like this one's non-restored, even though it's from my cabinet up here. It's not restored. What you're looking for is a lot of length in the blade when you're doing this, so it's coming right up near the handle, to make sure that you don't have to just replace the blade outright. And even if it's very rusty, you're looking for that there's no cracks or anything or breaks on any of the main parts, except for maybe the handle on the back here, because that's quite repairable, and I'll leave a video for that. I do intend on doing some more videos on how to select vintage tools, but for this I just want to say vintage hand planes, I find them around the $30 mark quite commonly at local markets on a Sunday. Those of you in other countries, if you've got your tool meets like you have in the US, I'm sure you can pick some stuff up even cheaper than that, so that's something to keep a lookout for. And the other one that I like is vintage hand saws, particularly panel saws. You find a lot of them at garage sales, vintage tool sales, and even eBay. They can be picked up, or Gumtree here in Australia, maybe Craigslist in the US, and I find that I've been able to pick these up for $20 to $30, and they're always in a restorable state. The one thing you want to check for is that you have no breaks along your tooth edge, so if you don't want to have to reinstate those teeth. But other than that, that's what I wanted to cover here. And you can occasionally find some chisels and other knickknacks, hand braces like this one. I picked this one up for $20. I pick up most of my hand braces for $20. Garage sales again, and the Sunday swap meets. So that's my list of items that I think would make great gifts for anyone that's a woodworker, particularly a hand tool woodworker. But there's some overlap with power tools and all that sort of thing. Now, since I'm not a power tool woodworker, and some of you I'm pretty sure are, I'd love you to sound off in the comments below and suggest different items that you might like as gifts, just so we can build up a database for everyone to look at, and they can try and decide on what a good item they could get for a gift, whether it's for themselves or for someone else. So if you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing down below. Really does help the channel out more than you know. And if you'd like to support me a little bit further, please consider checking me out on Pateron and also on Instagram. And if you'd like to see some more videos, such as this great video here today, please check out the playlist up here, which is the intermediate woodworking playlist. Bye for now.